Howdy folks, I'm Southern Wolf of SouthernWolfStudios. Welcome back to Samurai of Hyuga Book 2. Let's check out our stats. Calculated is at 64%, Perverted is at 64%, Charming and Stoic are at 50%, Protective is at 64%, and Finesse is at 63%. And finally, our attunement is at 48% from the first book. Chapter 2, Tonogasha. There was no field of sunflowers when I awoke, only the pouring rain and a gloomy midday sky. The smell of manure too. The searing pain at every breath meant my body and spirit were still achingly attached. I wasn't dead, but I sure wasn't in heaven either, unless Hachi was an angel. He definitely looks pure to me. An angel squinted his eyes in an attentive glare. It was directed at my midsection, specifically the new hole in my chest courtesy of Junko, a dagger to my nerves at every inhale. "Shush, he's awake." A female voice resounded behind me. It was soft and beautiful and ultimately toxic. That described Momoko Hayami quite well. Hachi had jumped in front of a poisoned dart for her sake. Brave and stupid as he was, nearly died for his trouble. Her idea of gratitude involved jumping off a bridge, and I hadn't even gotten to the best part. Jinjinto was dying from the good doctor's opium, a citywide prescription for death. I should be angry or mad or something, but not right now. Right now, my head was nestled in her lap, her legs were warm. Perverted. "Please don't move, Okami-san. I'm about to reapply your bandages," Momoko said with a smile, though it was upside down. Right then I was hit with a sudden dizziness, and it wasn't just from the heat between her thighs. We were moving. "Where, is Mitsumi?" Attunement has increased. It was tough enough to speak in the middle of this downpour. Tougher still when you were getting stabbed at every breath. I needed to ask 100 things, but the girl's safety is what came first. Hachi walked beside the cart holding a red umbrella over myself and Momoko. You could say it was noble that he allowed himself to get drenched to the bone. While the streaks of water fell off his chin, he wore an expression that for once I couldn't read. "Mitsumi-chan is alive. I couldn't get there in time to stop this. Gomen, Okami." Hachi hung his head in shame. "Charming. Apologize with a bottle of sake later." I paused for the pain to pass before adding, "Let me see the kid." Momoko's hesitation wasn't what I wanted to hear. "I understand your urgency, but please hold still for now." I felt a tightness wrap around my stomach, a painful contrast to her calming words. Calculated. I couldn't disagree with her. The doctor had just finished up when the kid yelled out my name. I would try my best to speak calmly, and I'd bite my tongue before crying out in pain. I'd shown enough weakness already. The cart being high off the ground as it was, Mitsumi had to climb up to see me. Our eyes connected for a moment as lightning flashed. Neither of us knew what to say, but we had a clap of thunder to fill the silence. When the rumbling was over, I spoke. "I've only put you in danger since we met." Attunement has increased. "I've only put you in danger since we met." I was a disastrous failure of a bodyguard. We'd been on the run ever since our skirmish with the Yamato City Guard. Made like rats and scurried through the condo ghettos. I tossed the poor kid into the criminal-infested underworld of Jinjinto. I got her mixed up with some bad Yakuza business, and worst of all, I put her in between me and my crazy ex-lover Junko. "It's fine," a cold reply, terse and to the point, the opposite of how the kid and I like to talk. I wanted a lecture on honor and duty. I wanted to get scolded and yelled at. I needed to know that the kid was okay. "It's not fine. It's not okay," I gasped in painful heaping breaths. I couldn't handle any emotion, anything but nothing at all. "I said it's fine," Mitsumi cried out. I didn't know who she was trying to fool. Those teary eyes didn't get that far away from the rain. Having a katana held to your throat by a crazy ronin getting patted and licked and calculated. And it took everything I had to hold in my anger. "Mitsumi, look at me." I waited for her eyes to meet back with mine. I could see all the dread and fear she held behind them. "I swear that I won't abandon you again. That monster will never hurt you again." Mitsumi sniffled between her choked up response. "Baka, I'm not the one near death." The tears started flowing freely. "Keep your oath. Just don't you dare think of retiring, bodyguard." Protective. Me retire? Don't you see, you silly girl? This is a lifetime commitment, however long that'll be. I spent the days that followed in and out of consciousness. I always slept well when it rained, though never on the back of a wobbling wagon. My companions took turns beneath the umbrella to speak to me about recent affairs. Sometimes they just wanted out of the rain. It was Toshi's turn in any case. Our condo ninja and spiritual counselor, the Emperor's hidden right-hand woman, a reader of the stars and dreams, of omens and divination. Essentially, she specialized in everything I thought was nonsense just 1 week ago. How things have changed since then. "What do you wish to talk about, Okami-san?" she asked in her typical tone, polite with a hint of curiosity. Of all my companions, Toshi seemed to be the least fazed by our situation. I wanted to know why. Spirits, you were right all along. They actually exist. Spirits, you were right all along. They actually exist. I spoke without gasping in pain. Instead, my face contorted into a nasty grimace, an improvement from days before. I couldn't tell if she was happy about my confession. Mitsumi wore her heart on her sleeves, and Momoko was no stranger to tears either. As for Junko, don't even get me started. Emotional was a nice way to describe the women in my life, though Toshi was a distinct exception, and that might have made me nervous. I was surprised when she suddenly pressed up against me. Turned out to be an examination that was both close and personal. I could feel the warmth of the late summer rain seeping into my kimono. Warmth from other places too. Her breath smelled like fresh miso soup mixed with morning dew. She stared out from those ethnic, deep oval eyes into mine. Good, I see that no trace of the Jugoku remains. It's not a matter of being right or wrong. She gently tore herself away. Your skepticism was warranted for the evidence at hand. It will serve you well in the unmasking of illusions in both realms and the next. It was then that Toshi revealed a weapon, a katana in a cracked scabbard with a chipped blade and a loose hilt, a reflection of its owner. It smelt like blood and tobacco smoke and was stained with far too many memories. I wanted to make sure that you still weren't under the control of the devil's technique. The ninja bowed her head respectfully and handed the katana over with both hands outstretched. This is Junko's blade, if I'm not mistaken. It was found by your side. This is junk, poorly maintained, definitely hers. Attunement has increased. This is junk, poorly maintained, definitely hers. I grabbed the katana for a closer inspection. Any rapid movement would cause a metallic clink to sound off. Junko wouldn't have been able to sneak up on anyone, although she did always prefer a more direct approach. But it was the handle which grabbed my attention. The stingray skin was smooth from use, and the feel was impossibly warm. Shivers ran down my arms as my fingers traced over the diamond-shaped pattern. I was in some sort of hypnotic daze that wasn't unpleasant, at least until Toshi interrupted me. Why did Junko take your katana and leave her own? Does it have some sort of symbolic meaning? Her arms crossed and her brow narrowed. When she did that after a question, it meant she already had an answer in mind. Are you sure you want to know? It's personal. Very personal. Attunement has increased. Are you sure you want to know? It's personal. Very personal. I issued my challenge with a wicked smile. I wanted to find out the limits of our Kunoichi's curiosity. Political intrigue, subterfuge, legal jargon, those were her specialties. Junko's insanity was mine. Junko's insatiable lust for me was also mine. Yes? She paused and steeled her resolve. I would like to know, Okami-san. Knowing more will help us fulfill the Emperor's quest. I wrestled the katana between my legs and gripped the fleshy hilt. My thumb and finger rested around the pommel. You see, Toshi, Junko knows that every time I touch this katana, I think of her. My thumb moved unconsciously in circles. My mind was growing numb as I entered a fog. She knows that I can't help but feel her beneath my grip. My breathing grew louder and hotter, and my stomach should have been on fire. Every cut of my stomach burned, but I was feeling the opposite of pain. My mouth fell open and my tongue reached out. Our eyes locked, and then a timely clap of thunder brought this to an end. It jolted me out of my stupor, brought back 5 years worth of regrets along with it. The flame that I thought I had extinguished was burning inside of me again. Toshi excused herself quickly with an apology. I'm sure she learned all she wanted to know. And me? I learned that even Toshi could blush. If I was going to enter Tonogasha, I was going to do so on my own feet. My stomach hadn't recovered, but I could feel sores on my back growing, and that kind of rocking in the cart didn't do my head any favors. I needed to get up and move around, to stretch my legs and to remember what it felt like to be alive again. Perverted. And no matter how comfortable Momoko's thighs were, the constant tease was starting to tear at me. That, and it wasn't easy hiding a certain physical reaction from down below, if you know what I mean. I insisted that I get up off of the wagon myself, and Hachi enthusiastically agreed, mentioning something about a man's honor. His bravado, however, went away instantly as he caved in and helped me at the first sight of pain. I cursed myself and a few others for my weakness. My legs were stiff enough to be planks, and weak enough they could have been snapped. My guts felt like they were tearing open all over again, but it couldn't stop me from smiling. The rain stopped and the sun was out, and the village of artisans awaited in the valley ahead. It was a beautiful sight to behold as autumn just introduced its multicolored beauty. Reds and oranges and yellows tinged the edge of oak trees with evergreens intermixed. The overcast sky brought out shadows from every hill and bend. Birds of 100 variants chirped and sang. The cicadas were gone and took the scorching summer heat with them. A fresh, cool wind blew through my lungs. It allowed me to appreciate just how far we'd come from that forsaken city. Jinjinto was behind us. The future was ahead. And in this moment of serenity and grace, Toshi wanted to talk about finances. We have no money. Hachi! I blamed Hachi. Hachirobi. I looked down at him with my arms crossed, sporting my best look of disapproval. For men of good conscience, this was all it took for them to crack. And for men of great conscience, well... Forgive me. The street fighter kneeled to the ground with his forehead to the floor. We didn't lose those beef cutlets from the back of the wagon. I ate them. He clapped his hands together and swore, "I'll never eat meat again." Mitsumi and I exchanged skeptical glances. It was like me swearing off sake, noble but ultimately futile. "No one is asking you to become a vegetarian, Hachirobi-san," Toshi said as she helped him back to his feet. "And it is rather unfair that Okami-san placed the burden of our predicament solely on your shoulders." I got a nasty glare to go along with that remark. I shrugged it off and agreed. Alright. At least we could sell the horse. "We're not selling Kiso-chan! I forbid it!" Mitsumi's yell broke out before I could finish. The last thing I needed right now was a scene to unfold in the middle of the road. The kid's sudden yell made me reach for my katana out of instinct. I knew my mistake as soon as I squeezed the hilt. I had to hold back a hiss of pain. My hands were still sore from catching Junko's katana with Hachi's technique, so I wasn't in a great mood to argue. But I did get out one question. Who is Kiso-chan? The undersized Shingenja ran to the defense of the chestnut mare. She gave the beast of burden a hug and gave me a scowl. "Kiso-chan is calm and nice and hard-working, unlike a certain ronin I know." That was a low blow. "Hey now, at least I don't smell so bad." Charming test. Pass. Attunement has increased. "Hey now, at least I don't smell so bad." Whenever the kid decided to get especially stubborn, the best approach was never direct. Logic and practicality only got you so far. If I could make her laugh or get embarrassed, I could disarm the drama before it began. But to separate a girl from her horse was going to take a little extra work. "Cease your insults! Besides, her scent grows on you after a while." Mitsumi tightened her hug. That's what I'm afraid of. But the point is, Kiso-chan has been walking up and down this road her entire life. This road is her home. I smiled warmly. "You don't want to take her away from her home, do you, Mitsumi?" It didn't feel like a victory. Not when it ended with the sound of a girl's sniffles, but it was what had to be done. It was weird, but I felt as if I had patience I didn't have before. I couldn't explain it, and Momoko's whispers only made me more confused. "Prone to frenzy, yet remains capable of great empathy. Fascinating." With Momoko-chan by my side to make sure I didn't break open, we entered through the gates of Tonogasha. But by gates, I mean a glorified fence. Vines of woodbine spread up and down the walls, through the valley of stones half covered in moss. Due to the recent rains, the vibrant greens and reds dripped constantly. It, like so many other beautiful places, would have been perfect if it had not been for all the people. "Would it perturb you to leave a bit of room?" A stout man in yellow silk barked at me. At his back was a gaggle of followers, their hands busy holding umbrellas and moving fans. "I dare say I'll not be made to linger a moment longer here." Finesse. I gave him one look and turned to the side which I carried my katana on. Junko's would work just as well as Sensei's in this case. "Ah, a samurai. Yes, fresh wounds from the battlefield. My dear, the road has not been kind. I nearly took you for a vagabond." My intimidation had backfired. Against my will, I was introduced to Ansai Tsukinobu, fourth son of Miyahira Tsukinobu, called the Striker of Sails. Though my opponents know me as the Gold General, you, of course, may address me as the former. Ansai laughed as his retinue joined in on cue. Something was a joke, all right. "And you may address me as Okami, who has no need for titles. Humility was a virtue only monks and ronin seemed to have. The former, it was a step towards enlightenment. For the latter, it was more about self-preservation. Abandoning your liege lord brought a tremendous amount of shame to your family. There was nothing to boast about having a bounty on your head. And so ronins didn't have nicknames or titles. They adopted false surnames, for a family no one was at war with. I had no family and never pretended that I did. Sometimes that got me into trouble. What is this? Am I not even worthy of hearing a family's name? The highborn riled himself into a bout of anger. There is none save the Imperial Majesty who may besmirch me so. Invoking the name caused a crowd of onlookers to pause and pay attention. They could sense the tension that was in the air. I was curious on how they would react if I told them the truth. If I had told them the nameless Ronin like me had spoken to an emperor himself and looked him in the eyes. And if I told them that I indeed had a title, that I was the sword who cuts the heavens, and a slayer of demons too, they'd call me crazy. They'd probably be right. Calculated. How fragile your ego must be, I thought aloud, to distort my words as an insult. I have fought bravely for Hyuga's sake, as you can see. My hand clutched against my stomach. It wasn't hard to act wounded when you actually were. I coughed and lowered my gaze upon the man who claimed to be the Golden General. His robes looked far more of a shade of piss to me. Doki! Ansai yelled and ran off through the crowd. Everyone dispersed as nobody was willing to challenge the guilt I could bring down upon them. You have mastered the use of shame, Okami-san. Momoko spoke gently while wiping the blood off of my face. I could only shake my head in response. It helped to be shameless. The kid and I were tasked with finding rooms for the night while the others sold the horse. That alone should have given good indication of my little companion's mood. Baka! The sign reads no vacancy, just like the last! Mitsumi barked out mercilessly. Illiteracy is no excuse! She grew increasingly frustrated as our search went on. I was frustrated too. The village I once knew had since flowered into a town that was foreign to me. Tonogasha was brimming with life, both floral and human. Charming. Figures we get here at the peak of tourist season. I muttered as I dodged an ensemble of street performers. Whatever happened to the quiet little hamlet this place used to be? The Shingenja put her hands on her hips and sighed. Due to the prohibitive cost of living in the capital, the cultural center of Hyuga moved east to Tonogasha. With the Shima barracks to the mountains to offer defense, artisans and entertainers have thrived. Matsumi added, do attempt to enjoy yourself. I looked from one wall-hanging scroll to another. I looked to the passers-by, a couple in matching kimonos even brighter than the fall-colored leaves. Small children danced to the beat of a musician's drum, and amidst a chorus of laughter, I'd never felt more out of place. Don't let me stop you. Go ahead and have some fun. Don't let me stop you. Go ahead and have some fun. Matsumi deserved a break more than any of us did. Anything to help her forget what happened in Jinto. Though I didn't think any amount of festivities could erase the terror Junko inflicted. I could only hope the kid's spirit recovered cleaner than my body did, with less scars to show. I shan't abandon my retainer when he is injured, Matsumi argued with me as we continued to enter and leave one ryokan after another. Each and every inn was booked. Rooms that weren't reserved weeks in advance were done months so beforehand. Not even our war hero and daughter routine got us any sympathy. The midday sun was on its way out, following the path our luck had already gone. Calculated. The patrons most likely know each other. That suggests an annual event, I thought aloud. It has to be a major spectacle if half the silk wearers in Hyuga are here. Somewhere along our path I went from leading the kid to following her. Her pace sped up. With her head of fine black hair flowing behind her, I held back the discomfort in my stomach and followed suit down yet another scenic Tonogasha street corner. Matsumi came to a sudden halt against a mural painted red, black, and white atop a gigantic wooden frame. She turned to me with her face brightened, dimples and all. It's Shogi! She yelled with outstretched hands. I took a better look at the mural behind her. Looked like a public notice of some sort. Words, and lots of them, screeched out from behind the whitening backdrop, some in red, some in black, though all of them confused me. But my eyes refocused as I saw an image drawn from the collection of characters. My feet moved back a step. It was a fearsome face that for some reason drew more fear inside of me than any painting ever should. It looked like a demon's mask. Attunement has increased. It looked like a demon's mask. Teeth thrust out from its scowling mouth, while its eye sockets pierced straight through my soul. The demon's brow creased to form horns, twisted skewers begging for flesh. I grabbed Matsumi by the sleeve and pulled her behind me. I wasn't even aware of what I'd done until I got punched from behind. I distinctly recall prohibiting you from handling me so crudely. I ignored her frustration and kept my eyes on the enemy. I was so unnerved by the picture that when a strange man approached, I couldn't help but draw my blade. To be fair, he was shadier than the shadow he'd strayed from. At last, my good sir, from your reaction, Onigai, please tell me! The man could toad beneath my feet, his long braids of hair dragging against the dirt. His voice gasped and was high-pitched, a falsetto that sounded eerie. How any man was capable of such a tone was beyond me. I must know what you've seen in my creation! The artist raised his head up at me, his eyes open, yet they still looked nearly closed. He was one of those guys with slits for eyelids. Men like him look like foxes and weasels, as if the spirits themselves birthed them to be untrustworthy. I see a demon with an insatiable hunger for men's souls. I spoke carefully as I returned Junko's katana to its sheath. Why would you draw such a thing? My accusation was met with a bout of ecstasy. Yatta! After 4 days of waiting, one has come that finally sees! The man sprung up to his feet and twirled with enthusiasm. I'd more than have a mind to walk away before he spoke again. South of tongue he speaks, will find the demon he seeks, makes a handsome friend.